Hello Willy Heads and welcome to part 3 of What the Hell is Happening in Antarctica. Well, we've explored a lot of topics and it's a huge area of exploration. This is one of them, the Hollow Earth. As usual, I've just pulled up some Google and Wikipedia pages and I will be telling a story, so stay with me if you want to. There's the theory, and it's not a new one, that the Earth is hollow. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And I've read a lot of spiritual books. I don't just mean the Bible and the New Testament and the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, for want of a better word, occult books. And not just the European grimoires, but the books written by people on a spiritual path today. And very often, even native people will talk about the Earth being hollow, literally. I mean, okay, here's an example, okay? This is a picture of I think this is the Antarctica. But there's this theory that Antarctica is at the bottom, I believe the Arctic is at the top. And it's like the human chakra system. The human chakra system, obviously, your feet are here, your root chakra is here where your testicles are. It goes up all the way until the head chakra, okay? And now there's a little hole in the top of your head that you'll notice it on babies, and you may have noticed it yourself. And those of you that have ever worked with your crown chakra knows that it pulsates in and out. And it's like there's a hole in the top of your head. So there's some theories to do with the planet and the chakra system. But check this out. This is very interesting. The ancient Hopi are a Native American clan of Indians that have had that are very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. This is in the Grand Canyon. Just check this out. This is cool. The Hopi specified that the Grand Canyon is the place where the Hopi emerged from their underground shelter after the flood had destroyed the Third World. The ancient Hopi also mentioned mysterious ant-like gods and flying shields that existed in the distant past. Flying shields sounds a lot like flying saucers or even flying carpets. And they're not alluding to something. This is an actual reality. Whenever we write about the inner Earth, aka the Hollow Earth, and numerous ancient cultures that mention a place within our planet where there is life, we encounter hostility. But why? Is it because the existence of such a place contradicts everything we have been told in the past? Or is it because we are blindly following mainstream dogmas that have been put in place in the past, telling us it's impossible? Well, there's this thing with science. It comes from Galileo and people like that and the church. And science was opposed by the Catholic Church very healthily not so long ago. And they used to kill people and torture people and burn them at the stake. Not just religious heretics, but also scientists. Which, you know, Muslims are doing today. They're the same guys, trust me, they're the same guys. So there's a natural hostility to religion from science. So anything from a spiritual culture, for want of a better word, scientists will think of it as a point of attack and will do their best to destroy it. That's the basis, I think, of a lot of antagonism from science. The idea that our planet is hollow can be traced back thousands of years. I was reading the other day about Plato. Plato talks about the inner Earth and an inner sun inside the Earth as well, which is a strange concept. The idea that our planet is hollow can be traced back thousands of years, and like other popular accounts, nearly all ancient cultures speak of certain places on Earth where we can access the inner world. One such culture, the ancient Hopi. Although in my culture in Great Britain and in Ireland and places like that, in Iceland, we talk about the little people that live under the earth. The Japanese native culture is an earth worshipping culture, and they revere certain parts of the earth in Japan where the spirits live under the earth. Let's keep going here. It's easy to get dragged off into 1,000 different threads with this. It's so deep and complex. Not only did the ancient Hopi believe the gods inhabited the inner parts of the earth, they depicted mysterious ant-like beings and flying shields thousands of years ago. Interestingly, their legends also speak of a great flood, which is a clear parallel to the ancient Sumerian legends of the Great Flood and obviously the biblical flood. If we take a look at the ancient Hopi and their beliefs, we will find that this ancient culture claims that their ancestors did not arrive from the north, not by ship, but they came from below the surface of the earth. So it's not, people aren't pulling this out of their ass. And when we have people, science fiction writers, talk a journey to the center of the earth and things like that, they're based on something. And if you've seen my other Antarctic videos, when we talk about Admiral Byrd's diary, where he goes into the center of the earth to meet the people that live there, and he talks about forests and mammoths and God knows what, and that ties into something into a very interesting map I'll show you right in a second. In fact, the ancient Hopi indicate that their specific location of the Hopi legend is inside the Grand Canyon, where there are mysterious entrances into the inner earth. Grand Canyon's a very fascinating place. Okay. The Hopi cosmology specifically specifies that this is the place where the Hopi emerged from their underground shelter after the flood had destroyed the Third World. In fact, there are numerous theories to suggest that there are numerous entry points located in the canyon, and one of the I suppose that would have shared one of these, is honoured in a ceremony as the dwelling of an ancient parent race. So, and the Hopi aren't the only ones that talk about they came from inside of the earth, which is a mad theory. Why is it that the 1%, i.e. scientists and the establishment, we listen to them and believe everything we say, but the 99% ordinary folk, when they speak of things like this, we dismiss it out of hand. It's odd how we work. This magical site is sacred and off limits to anyone but the Hopi people. Further stories indicate that in the distant past, the Hopi were assisted by mysterious beings commonly referred as insects, ants, that inhabited regions of the inner world. The ancient Hopi speak of their deities as ant-men. In fact, some of the petroglyphs found near Michongonovi, Arizona, created by the ancient Hopi, depict the enigmatic beings with antennas, offering an idea of how strange these ant-men look. Interestingly, not everything is based on legends and stories. It is said that in the past, the Smithsonian Institute, which is a famous institution in America, intellectual pursuits, shall we say, which has been called out for hiding controversial discoveries, discovered a number of artifacts inside the huge cave with intricate passages and rooms, with tablets bearing strange hieroglyphs. Now, this wouldn't be the first time that scientists have poo-pooed or dismissed theories that contradict their own. You only have to look at the theory of the Sphinx, that water erosion has caused that, and how that the Sphinx is much older than what we say. And here's an interesting fact to you. Cleopatra is closer to us in time than she is to when the pyramids were actually built. That's just throwing that out there. An article published by the Arizona Gazette on April the 5th, 1909, said that the Grand Canyon was once home to a lost civilization, which consisted of beings of gigantic proportions. Well, what has this got to do with the Arctic and the Antarctic? You say this is all kind of connected together with we're talking about the Antarctic and the Arctic of us having entrances to the inner Earth. So perhaps other places have as well, and the Grand Canyon is thought to be one of those places. An article published over 100 years ago indicates that a massive underground citadel was also discovered by an explorer called G.A. Kincaid, who stumbled across it whilst rafting on the Colorado River. This is so cool. It is said that the entrance to a massive citadel is located at the end of a tunnel which stretches for almost a mile below the surface. However, just as the ancient Hopi, the Mecoxi Indians, indigenous people who live in the Amazon, in countries such as Brazil, Guyana, and Venezuela, also speak about the hollow earth and how it is real. According to Mecoxi legends, they are descendants of the sun's children, the creator of fire and disease and protectors of the inner earth. Until the year 1907, the Mecoxis would enter some sort of cavern and travel from 13 to 15 days until they reached the interior. It is there, at the other side of the world, in the inner earth, is where the giants live, creatures that have around 3 to 4 meters in height. Now that's crazy. Now, as I was said, I've read a lot of books on shamanism and the occult, and shamans today, and I mean today, now, it is the 31st of December, 12:15 where I am. It's New Year's Eve. Today, there are shamans in this world that speak of exactly the same things and write books about having the same experiences, and we dismiss them completely out of hand. Let's have a look here. Hollow Earth. There we go. Back to that great thing. Journey to the center of the Earth. Let's have a look at this. This is the guy I was looking for. I was reading the other day about this guy called Olaf Jansson, a Norwegian sailor who sailed with his father through an entrance to the Earth's interior at the North Pole. Now he also talks about, here we go, this guy was a Norwegian guy who went with his father on a sailing trip up there by the North Pole and found this entrance into this crazy world. And he talks about the old gods like Odin and things like that, and Thor and hidden cities. It's straight out of fairy tales and legends, and it's quite a tragic story because he came back after having been very ill, and he was nursed back. His relatives had occupied his home, and he told his uncle about these stories, and his uncle listened very, very seriously about that, and he thought his uncle was going to help fund another trip to meet these magical creatures, these 12-foot tall giants. But his uncle had him locked up in a loony bin for 20 years, so it isn't good. But this is very, very interesting. You're talking about giants. For 2 years, Jansson lived with the inhabitants of an underground network of colonies who, Emerson writes, this is the guy who Willis George Emerson in 1908, who describes the adventures of Olaf Jansson. This guy, Jansson, our hero, lived with the inhabitants of an underground network of colonies who, Emerson writes, were 12 feet tall. This is going back to your Hopi legends of giants, and whose world was lit by a smoky central sun, that's straight out of Journey to the Center of the Earth, isn't it? It's just insane. And if you think physically that that's nonsense, well, check this out. Recently, scientists have discovered that there's a hidden lake, a hidden body of water, a hidden ocean that goes 1/3 to the journey of the Earth's. It extends downwards 1/3 towards the center of the Earth. And apparently 90% of the world's water is actually there rather than on the surface. And without that hidden reservoir of water, the whole world would just be a water world. There'd be no land at all. So it's not, we think we have this idea that we're at the end of history, but in actual fact we're right in the dirty of the middle of it. How long ago was America discovered? 200, 300, 400 years ago. I live in mid-Wales. There are more castles around me in mid-Wales than anywhere else on the face of the earth. There are castles still standing that were built by Henry VIII, that when they were built, and they're still standing today, the Americas have not been discovered. So, don't think that the end of the golden age of discovery has ended. It hasn't. Adventure is still out there. Okay. The smoky, 12, here we go. Our hero lives with the inhabitants of an underground network of colonies who, Emerson writes, were 12 feet tall and whose world was lit by a smoky central sun. Their capital city was said to be the original Garden of Eden. Later works by authors such as Agatha, Secrets of the Subterranean Cities, have identified the civilization Jansson encountered with Agatha A mystical subterranean city. Crazy, crazy stuff. And this is, I want to show you this map now. This is just so cool. Now I'm showing you this not out of this. The world of Scartis was written. It's based on the Inner Earth mythology, but it's actually a fantasy book. But the reason I like it, let's see if we can blow this up a bit. Because it's just such a sweet map and it's so interesting. And it's straight out of Boy's Own. Here we go, the world of Scartis. Now this is based on the Inner Earth. And it is a fantasy version of the Inner Earth. But we've just heard tales of giants and inner suns and oceans. So check this out. There are dinosaurs all over the place. Here we go. There are bat people. Cities called Thera. Baal Forest. Mutilated lizard men. Mountains of the Sun. That actually looks like Wales there a little bit. Slave city of Belshazzar. It's just straight out of Boy's Own fantasy. Bay of Tears. There's a Terminator there which looks exactly like the Loch Ness Monster. Shabal Gladiator Arena. Those are mermaids. Cairo, which, you know, it always struck me. I read something by Australians once, and they pronounce words like Egypt and things like that completely. They're in some Australian spellings of words, they're spelled completely different to the way English spells it, and it adds this mystical, beautiful quality to things. Desert of Sorrows. What does that say there? Bow. Oh, can't quite read that there. Let's keep going. I'm into Conan the Barbarian and I read a lot of fantasy books. This is just very interesting to me. Blood Rock Mountains, Valley of the Snow Beast, Balgar Bay, Tower of Fear. There's a strange tower around where I live. I'm going to investigate quite soon. Swamplands, replete with little monster. Now this is based on the Inner Earth. This is a fantasy book. Valley of the Lion. Ramphos River, Great Fire Mountain, Shambhala the Golden. Of course, Shambhala is supposed to be in the Inner Earth. Mercenary Raiders, Forest of Ebenar, and Dr. Bird talks about forests in the Inner Earth. That's a saber-toothed tiger. I actually know a kung fu set and practice a kung fu set for evoking the saber-toothed tiger. I've got breathing patterns and everything, so that's quite close to my heart. Isle of Tutang. Well, they look like Romans with the toilet brush helmets, look. Dragon Sea. Umbar. There's a... What is that? Pterodactyl? I used to have a model of one of those when I was a little kid. Plastic one. It was great. Unexplored Lands. Ruins of Shabandar. Well, there's a caveman with a great big club there, look. Khalistan Merchant City. Kazamaga Islands. That looks like some kind of a horned horse. Sea of Gret. Captain Hawk's Stronghold. It's just so cool. Umbar. Dragon Sea. Now, obviously, this is a little bit like Game of Thrones. So these things are still, they're in our imaginations. They're part of our culture and of growing up, which is a strange thing. You know, this mystery. Here's another little thing of the Inner Earth, which bears some semblance to what if we take it, that it could be a reality. The Inner Sun, Northern Polar opening, Southern opening, surface world. Very, very odd. Let's have a look at the map again, just because I like it. Baroth Mountains, Unexplored Lands, Terminator North Sea. A city that looks straight out of Arabian, 1001 Arabian Nights. Gronico. Doomgate Temple. Another dinosaur, another crazy Stone Age guy with an axe. Caves of the Cyclops. Ruins of Agrawar? Well, there's a famous city in Conan the Barbarian called Agrapor. Haunted mountains, centaurs. Centaurs, of course, recently appeared in Harry Potter. The dwelling dwarfs. Temple Grumfang. Bandakar. Desert of Doom. Citadel of... What the heck does that say? Citadel of Timgad. Nomad warrior tribes. So this is just boys' own fantasy stuff. Obviously, people are reading, hearing about the inner Earth, and Westerners are, and embellishing it. But the things on this map are no more strange than talks of giants living in the middle of the Earth. And Dr. Bird talks about seeing elephants. Now, what did he say? It's not an elephant. It's a mammoth. You know? So... it gets stranger and stranger and stranger. And here, of course, is the chakra system again, with the head chakra and the root chakra. And there's this theory that the earth has its chakras. Glastonbury is thought to be the heart chakra. It says here the third eye chakra at Glastonbury. I've read Glastonbury is the heart chakra. I tell you what, guys, you think, that sounds nonsense. Go to Glastonbury when the Glastonbury Festival on and tell me it isn't the heart chakra of the world. Let me tell you that. It is absolutely amazing. And of course you've got Mount Shasta in America, where there's all sorts of talks of hidden aliens and UFOs coming in and out of Mount Shasta. Let me go. Let's have a look here. This is talking about that map we've just seen. According to Mike Grell, creator of Scartaris and the Warlord, the name comes from the mountain peak Scartaris that points the way to the passage to the Earth's core in Journey to the Center of the Earth. So, you know, it's Scartaris is essentially a translation of Edgar Rice Burroughs' Pellicudar into the graphic medium Pellicidar into the graphic medium, with elements of Jules Verne and half a dozen fictional Hollow Earth settings, and an admixture of magic and Atlantis myth. In Grell's concept, as in Burroughs, the Earth is a hollow shell with Scartaris as the internal surface of that shell. Scartaris is accessible to the surface world via a polar opening, allowing passage between the inner and outer worlds. There are also various tunnels connecting with the interior world of the surface. Scartaris is lit by a miniature sun suspended at the center of the holosphere, so it is perpetually overhead whenever one is in Scartaris. The miniature sun never changes in brightness and never sets. Well, that's essentially the Hopi myth. So, with no night or seasonal progression, the natives have little concept of time. There is, however, a moon that orbits the sun in a random way, resulting in certain areas of Scartaris being covered in darkness from time to time. The events of the series suggest that time is elastic, passing at different rates in different areas of Scartaris and varying even in single locales. Wow. Let's keep going here. This is very interesting. Scartaris is populated by primitive people of various levels of culture, ranging from the primitive to medieval, with the most advanced inhabiting city-state monarchies such as Shambhala, based on mythical Tibetan realm of Shambhala, the home of Morgan's principal love interest, Tara. Well, okay, these are tellers of tall tales, adapting native traditions. The inner earth is inhabited by... Well, having said that, in our traditions in my country, with the little people, they're not necessarily they play tricks. They're tricksters, and they're at our level rather than much more advanced. Now, in the Tibetan stuff and in the Hopi things, they are perhaps more advanced, but the Hopi talk of giants, you know, and it's funny that there are, if you've ever read Inni Almine, who's a modern day mystic, and books I thoroughly recommend that you read and practice if you're into shamanism of any sort. She's a Toltec amongst many other things, as in the Don Juan mythologies. She talks about giants as well, you know, and Almine's alive today. So it's not as if this stuff isn't happening today. City-states such as Shambhala, based on the mythical Tibetan realm of Shambhala, the home of Morgan's principal love interest. The practice of magic is well developed. Numerous sorcerers been known, usually antagonistic to each other and to Morgan. The most prominent is Diamos and his main antagonist. Anyway, we're going into the realms of stories here, but you get the point that these things have been around for a long, long time. I've heard stories of Google Earth covering up bits of Antarctica and the North Pole, and there are stories about instruments waylaying people. There's all sorts of evidence for flat Earth. I have not delved deeply enough into the subject to have an opinion on it, and I've not carried out any practical scientific tests myself. But it's certainly it's certainly an area for exploration. That's a strange concept, isn't it? It really is. We think of life as being out there, out in the stars, but we don't think of it as being beneath our feet. And yet the worlds inside of our own body are teeming with life. Life is everywhere around us. Everything that exists teems with life. So why shouldn't it be under the world, under the earth? He is the God who sits in the center on the navel of the earth, and he is the interpreter of religion to all mankind. Plato talks about the inner earth. It's a subject for much exploration and much. Those of us that like mysteries to still exist in the world, it's very, very interesting. Agartha, of course, is one of the names for the inner earth here. This is just the wiki page. There's a Miles Davis album called Agartha. I'd like to listen to that. I don't mind a bit of Miles Davis. Who else but the Japanese have got a manga about it? It's probably quite good. Let's have a look here. Agartha, sometimes Agartha. Well, that's obviously Indian. Agarthi, that's obviously Indian. Agartha and Agartha, they all sound Indian. Dots Indians rather than feathers Indians. A legendary city that is said to be located at the Earth's core. It is related to the belief in a hollow Earth and is a popular subject of esotericism. The mysteries, the occult, the hidden. 19th century French occultist Alexander Saint-Yves d'Alvedre published the first reliable account of Agartha in Europe. According to him, the secret world of Agartha and all of its wisdom and wealth will be accessible for all mankind when Christianity lives up to the commandments which were once drafted by Moses and God, meaning when the anarchy which exists in our world is replaced by synarchy. Yes, well, good luck with that. St. Yves also gives a lively description of Agartha in his book as if it were a place which really exists, situated in the Himalayas in Tibet. St. Yves' version of the history of Agartha based on revealed information, meaning received by St. Yves himself through attunement. I guess it's personal gnosis, i.e. there's this theory that we're all connected, we have a connecting link to the spirit, you can clean that connecting link, and the spirit talks to you, and that's basically what it is. I mean, hence Moses and people like that, The explorer Ferdinand Ossendowski wrote a book in 1922 titled Beasts, Men and God. In the book, Ossendowski tells of a story which was imparted to him concerning a subterranean kingdom which exists inside the earth. This kingdom was known to the Buddhists as Agarthi. Let's just, there's only a little bit here. Let's read this. Agartha is frequently associated or confused with Shambhala, which figures prominently in Vajrayana Buddhism. I've heard of that. And Tibetan Kala Chakra, I've also heard of that. There's such a thing as the Kala Chakra initiation, which the Dalai Lama still gives today. Who's the guy that, I'm just trying to think of his name. There's a famous American occultist that did his school bases a lot of stuff on the Goetia, and he received a Kalachakra initiation. If I can remember his name off the top of my head, I'll say it. If I can't, I might put a link to it in the comments. Kalachakra teachings, and received in the West by Madame Blavatsky, who's a famous occultist, of course. And the Theosophical Society. Theosophists in particular regard Agartha as a vast complex of caves underneath Tibet inhabited by evil demons called Asuras. Asuras, of course, figure largely in Hindu mythology, Indian Hindu mythology, and in Buddhist mythology as well, as kind of demons to be overcome. Helena and Nicholas Rowerish, whose teachings closely parallel philosophy, see Shambhala's existence as both spiritual and physical. Well, there's a little bit here of the other side of the coin, shall we say, the creatures that may or may not exist at the centre of the earth as being demons that we've overcome, as it were. Maybe primordial urges. That's another way of looking at these things. Of course, things can be looked at in many, many ways. You can interpret things literally and think that there is civilizations at the centre of the earth. And as in that great fantasy book, Magic Kingdom for Sale Sold, by the guy that wrote the Sword of Shannara books, where an ordinary guy in our world receives something that says you can buy a magic kingdom for £1 million. He sells everything he owns and buys it and inherits a magic kingdom. So it's what you want to believe, I guess. But wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be great if we could, if it's possible that other worlds exist? If they do, I choose to believe that they're magical rather than evil. That's about it for this one, guys. And wherever you are, I wish you well. And may your gods bless you. Wow, check this out. What an amazing discovery. King Willie Puck the Foley's t-shirts, Puck the Foley sweatshirts, and even original art. Wouldn't it be, how cool would it be if you could perhaps buy these things, in the eBay link below? Now that would be a discovery.